If you ever want to see your own front door again, David, you'll sign these papers and leave by midnight." Those were the exact words my mother-in-law, Evelyn, whispered into my ear as my wife stood just 10 feet away, completely oblivious, holding a bouquet of flowers Evelyn had bought her. Evelyn was smiling at her daughter, but her eyes on me were cold, calculating and victorious. She thought she had stripped away everything I had worked 15 years to build. She thought I was going to pack a bag, cry in my car, and disappear into the night. What she didn't realize was that I wasn't leaving out of fear. I was leaving because I had just realized something that would change everything. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Before we dive deeper into this wild journey, please take a quick second to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on all notifications. It really helps the channel grow and you won't miss a single story of justice. Now let's get back to the night my life blew apart. To understand how I ended up standing in my own hallway being evicted by my wife's mother, you have to go back 3 years. My name is David. I'm a structural restoration consultant. Basically, I fix broken, historic, or unstable buildings for a living. I met my wife Sarah 6 years ago. She was kind, sweet, and quiet, maybe a little too quiet when it came to her family. Her mother, Evelyn, was a force of nature, a woman who wore expensive pearl necklaces paid for by a string of failed business ventures and ex-husbands. Evelyn viewed everyone around her as either a financial asset or an obstacle. When Sarah and I decided to buy our first home, we found a magnificent, run-down Victorian property on the outskirts of town. It had magnificent bones, wraparound porches, and 3 acres of land, but it was practically falling apart. The foundation had settled, the roof leaked, and the city had slated it for demolition unless someone with real expertise stepped in. I poured every penny of my life savings, nearly $200,000, into buying the property at auction and purchasing the raw materials to fix it. Because my credit was temporarily frozen due to a business identity theft issue I was clearing up at the time, Evelyn stepped in with a suggestion that sounded like pure generosity. She offered to act as a temporary co-signer on the deed alongside Sarah, promising that as soon as my credit cleared in 18 months, she would transfer her legal claim directly to me. Sarah was thrilled. She hugged her mother, crying tears of joy, thinking her mom was finally showing real love. I was hesitant, but I trusted my wife and I wanted to build our dream home. For 2 straight years, I spent every evening and weekend working on that house. I spent 40 hours a week at my regular job and another 40 hours swinging hammers, laying custom hardwood floors, rewiring electrical panels, and hand-restoring the original stained glass windows. I tore out rotting beams with my own hands, came home covered in drywall dust every night, and bled into the very foundation of that estate. The property value soared from the $80,000 I paid for it to well over $800,000. It was a masterpiece. Then 6 months ago, Evelyn's demeanor shifted overnight. It started with small comments. She'd walk into the kitchen I had spent 3 months tiling and say things like, "It's nice, but the real owner of a house like this should have chosen marble." Then came the subtle wedge she drove between Sarah and me. Evelyn started whispering in Sarah's ear that I was working too much, that I was emotionally distant, that I cared more about wood and nails than our marriage. Sarah, who had grown up controlled by her mother's psychological games, slowly began to pull away from me. Last month, I finally cleared my credit file and printed out the quitclaim deed forms for Evelyn to sign, transferring her co-signer rights to me as we had agreed. I set the papers on the dining table during Sunday dinner. Evelyn picked up the pen, looked at the papers, and then slowly looked up at me with a smirk that chilled me to the bone. She didn't sign. Instead, she folded the papers in half, dropped them into her glass of red wine, and leaned across the table. She looked at Sarah and said, "Darling, didn't you tell him? I bought out your half of the legal title last week for a nominal fee. You signed it over to me so I could help you secure your financial independence. David isn't on the deed at all. Legally speaking, this house belongs entirely to me." My heart stopped. I turned to Sarah, my head spinning. Sarah wouldn't look me in the eye. Evelyn had manipulated her into believing I was planning to divorce her and take the house, convincing Sarah to sign over her legal share to protect it in her mother's name. Evelyn had executed a legal coup, using my hard work and my wife's insecurity to steal an $800,000 asset right out from under me. "You have 24 hours to pack your clothes. David, Evelyn said, her voice smooth as velvet and cold as ice. If you set foot on this property after tomorrow, I'll call the sheriff and have you arrested for trespassing. Every nail in this house is officially mine. I stood there, feeling the rage boiling up inside my chest, threatening to explode. I looked at the hand-carved staircase, the custom cabinets, the blood and sweat I had poured into every square inch of the structure. I looked at Sarah, who was silently sobbing in the corner, too terrified of her mother to speak up. I could have screamed. I could have smashed the dining table. But as I stared at Evelyn's triumphant, arrogant smile, a strange, deadly calm washed over me. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I simply picked up my coat, looked Evelyn dead in the eye, and whispered, "Enjoy the house, Evelyn." I walked out to my truck, sat in the dark, and opened my laptop. Evelyn thought she had won because her name was on a piece of paper at the coup county clerk's office. But she had forgotten one critical detail about who I was, what I did for a living, and what was hidden beneath the floorboards of that house.